Wow, has it really been over a year since I last did a toy review? Well, might as well pick up where I left off with the 86 Autobots from Studio Series. Let's see, I alluded to Ultra Magnus back in my Blur video, but I did also get a hold of Springer since then. And we also have Commander Optimus now. I got it, let's talk about Ratchet. Look, I just spent the last year working on those damn Percy Jackson videos, I need a softball. Yeah, we all knew this was coming. Literally just as I was working on the Studio Series Ironhide review, a Ratchet version was announced and released. So considering it's been almost 2 years since then, I think it's past time that I took a quick look at this toy to see what's new and different. You know, just in case anyone can still find him anywhere. Ratchet's vehicle mode is pretty much just a white version of Ironhide. Aside from that, there are virtually zero deco changes. Remember, the stripes you see on this Ironhide are homemade stickers, not something you'll find on the stock toy. And considering that I felt the need to make those stickers in the first place, you can probably tell how I feel about this deco choice, even if you haven't seen my original video. Yeah, both are pretty plain looking right out of the box. If anything, the lack of paint apps is even more noticeable on Ratchet. The fact that everything is white just makes him look blank. Especially on the rear, where the unpainted taillights stick out even more. In fact, this is the only place where the deco was changed, and it was to remove the paint from the bumper. Granted, it doesn't look awful in white, and saves on some scratching in robot mode. Still, this is a figure that begs for a Toy Hacks upgrade, even more so than Ironhide. Or you could Frankenstein him together with the new battle damaged version, whichever you feel better about. One thing that I will point out is that the color matching between plastics is a lot better on Ratchet than Ironhide. You can barely tell the ABS from the nylon. On the flip side though, the paint matching seems a lot worse here. The white on the windshield frame and roof panels is way brighter than any of the other white parts, which makes it far more distracting to look at compared to Ironhide. Not only that, but there have been reports of the white nylon discoloring pretty badly. My figure has held up well enough so far though, so it seems there's some luck of the draw to be had. Your mileage may vary. The only new parts you'll find in this mode are the light bar. It's a small addition, but it adds a surprising amount to his profile. As many predicted, these fit over the roof tabs that Ironhide used to mount his guns. Though if you do still want to mount the guns that way, they do come off. And yes, they are separate pieces, so they can stay in place for conversion. They didn't pull a breakdown here. And that's everything Ratchet brings to the table for vehicle mode. Which honestly isn't all that much. He's basically just a white version of Ironhide with a couple new bits on top. It's pretty underwhelming. I really think he should have been more than this. Especially considering that he's not only a retool, but also the only Voyager in his wave. I would expect there to be at least a little more budget behind this toy. Then again, maybe the robot mode has more to offer. Transformation is entirely unchanged, so let's just go straight into said robot mode, where we do see a few more differences from Ironhide. Obviously, there's the head sculpt, which trades Ironhide's helmet plume for a V-shaped crest. The crest is a little more detailed than the cartoon model, with a couple indentations added, but nothing that detracts from the look. The face sculpt is also somewhat softer and rounder, which makes sense considering that this version of Ratchet isn't such a battle-hardened character. Don't know why they gave him a chin guard though. I don't think that was ever a thing in the cartoon. What impressed me was the fact that the helmet itself has some changes to it. It has the same profile as Ironhide, but the line work is quite a bit different, which is actually consistent with their animation models. It would have been so easy to just paste a new crest and face on and call that job done, but instead they took the extra bit of effort and redid everything, which is nice. Now I'll go back to not even thinking about this. There is one more piece of new tooling, the crotch piece, redone to remove Ironhide's diamond cup, I'm gonna call it. Once again, we get some new detailing here, a bit more greebly instead of Ironhide's more armored look. It's all still one piece, so those who felt the need to carve up their Ironhide have to do the same thing here. I guess they still need to meet a part count. It never bothered me that much though, so I don't really care. Aside from that, it's all down to the deco. Once again, most of the changes are basic, amounting to changing the color of the plastics. Pretty much the entire toy is cast in white, with the exception of the clear blue windows and the red parts around the waist. Of course, the fists are also painted red, which still confuses me. They were painted on the Ironhide release as well, despite being the same gray color as the waist assembly. Why they weren't just on that same sprue so neither version needed to be painted, I don't understand. But aside from that, I have nothing to complain about. He looks like Ratchet, which is pretty much all I expected. Well, except for the shoulder decals. Yeah, it turns out that using the Red Cross symbol the way he did in the cartoon is a violation of the Geneva Convention, so Hasbro wasn't able to use it here. Instead, this toy uses what Hasbro has dubbed the Autobot Sign of Life, which is basically just a red star of life with an Autobot symbol in the middle. It actually works quite well as a substitute, to the point where I'm surprised it took them this long to settle on it. And that's pretty much all there is to say. The articulation is all the same, the accessories are completely unchanged, even the backdrop is identical. So yeah, on to final thoughts. Studio Series Ratchet is a very similar story to Ironhide. A really solid toy, only really held back by the lack of deco in vehicle mode. If you liked Ironhide, then I'd say go ahead and pick this guy up, if you can still find him. But if you didn't care for him, this figure will do very little to win you over. If anything, the few flaws the original toy had are exacerbated here. Still, I'm just as happy with my purchase of this figure as I was with Ironhide. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go window shop on Toy Hacks. Doctor, doctor, give me the news, I got a bad case of loving you. No pill's gonna cure my ills, I got a bad case of love.